G'day, it's Fish, the Beach Bum Investor, here with a special edition of the Crypto Wave Investment Crew Show. We're joined today by Rocky Palumbo, who is what I consider to be a Bitcoin expert, and I've invited him on the show today to talk to us about forks, and in particular the B2X fork. Now, I'm just going to post up the YouTube link on the Discord group because we do have a lot of people in our investment crew who are very grateful for Rocky's time and want to get involved in the discussion and learning about what we all need to be prepared for with the upcoming B2X fork. Rocky, thanks very much for joining us, mate.
No problem. It's a pleasure being here today.
That's great. I'm just going to post this up. You just bear with me. As you know, I'm not a tech expert, so if you just bear with me 2 seconds, I'll post this up on our Discord group so we can get the guys over for the discussion.
No worries, mate. Bye, Cracky.
That's a brilliant Aussie accent you got going on there.
That's all I know right there. That's all I can say in Aussie.
Well, it's better than me, mate. I can't do a US accent to save myself. So, AQ5's already in, and A-Dog's here as well. He's actually a California boy himself. He's only 12 years old, and he drops in and says g'day every time we're on the chat. So g'day A-Dog, g'day Cranky Pete. Only 4 blocks to go is what Pete's saying about the Bitcoin gold fork. We are primarily going to focus on the B2X discussion today. I'm just going to post this up. Actually, Pete, if you could grab the link and just post it up in Discord, man, because you know me with this tech stuff, and that way I can stay focused on the discussion with Rocky. I will try and pop back to the chat as much as I can, but I'd like to let Rocky really lead this discussion just to, hey, Wilkie, how are you? Just to inform us all on what's going on and his views on Bitcoin itself and the B2X fork. So I'm just going to open up again when I can figure it out. Google Hangouts. Yes, so I can see Rocky. There he is. Rocky, by the way, mate, love it. We were talking before we came on air. I'm loving the bodyboard in the background. The Moray Boogie. As I said to you, man, I know a lot of collectors who'd pay a pretty penny for that thing. Thank you very much for chucking it up. That's cool, man.
Well, you know, if they're willing to make an offer in Bitcoin, I'll consider it.
That's perfect. I'll let them know. I'll put it out to the bodyboarding community. I'll say, listen, if you want a Moray Boogie, an original, you're going to have to pay in Bitcoin because that's what Rocky's currency of choice is.
I'm sure I bought that before 1980.
Oh, it would have been, man. I'm sure of it. Yeah, it's a classic board. It's the first... It is the first original bodyboard most people consider, the modern day bodyboard. Anyway, let's get on to the discussion that we are here for today, which is the B2X fork. Now, mate, a lot of newbies in our discussion group. Now, we're all learning about the crypto economy together. So if you could just start by telling us what a fork actually is.
Well, it's a change in the protocol. And if it's a hard fork, it's a change in the protocol that's not backwards compatible. And if it's a soft fork, then it's a change in the protocol that is backwards compatible.
Okay, cool. And we've seen a lot of recent news and media about forkings. We had the Bitcoin Cash fork, of course, back in August, September. It hasn't been super successful. It has seen pretty major retracements since its highs. Let me just get onto my questions here. Sorry, Rocky.
And which one did you say? The Bitcoin Cash, you said?
The Bitcoin Cash fork. It wasn't exactly successful. I just don't understand now that we've got Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin 2X coming out. It seems to me that a lot of these forks are sort of just trading off the success of the original, of Bitcoin itself, and using that name specifically as a marketing strategy. You know, you know that I don't mind the altcoin market, and we'll leave that discussion alone. But realistically, I think just trading off the success of, you know, riding on someone else's coattails, as it were, is, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of it. So what are your thoughts on the forks that we've seen so far in Bitcoin Cash, and I believe Bitcoin Gold's about to happen? What are your thoughts on those forks? I know you're mainly focused on B2X at the moment, but before we get into that, if I could just quickly get your thoughts on that.
Well, I actually know a lot about Bitcoin Cash, or I like to refer to it as Bitcoin trash, because it's complete garbage. They basically took the best Bitcoin update, SegWit, and ripped that out, and then they took out the replace by fee feature, and then gave it an 8 meg block size, and and ran with that. So that, that's the worst idea since sticking your hand in a blender and turning it on.
And speaking of block sizes, do you see that as being I understand that block sizes, just for those who don't know, including myself, block sizes is mainly about scalability, if I'm correct. Do you see that as actually being a solution going forward, just endlessly increasing block sizes, or do you believe there's going to be a different solution proposed that we may not have even seen yet?
No, you cannot scale Bitcoin by increasing the block size. Just can't be done. I have a whole presentation on it if you'd like to see it. Maybe I could come back another day and go into much more detail on it and show you the numbers, how it just will not work. If Bitcoin is going to be a worldwide currency that has, anywhere near mass adoption worldwide, and taking a big bite out of the credit cards and taking a big bite out of banking, it's going to have to do, at least 100,000 transactions per second. And merely increasing the block size to meet that demand is impossible with a decentralized system like Bitcoin.
Yeah, okay. Rocky, I just wanted to get a bit of your background first. I did skip over a couple of questions. I had the wrong document open. As usual, super professional on this show. So I just wanted to know how you first heard about Bitcoin, and when did you first hear about Bitcoin?
Wow, okay. Well, I first heard about it in the summer of 2009, about 6 months after it started. I've been into computers since the early 80s, since 81. I bought my first computer, so I have a lot of computer buddies from back in the day. And so one of them heard about this Bitcoin thing, and he was telling me about it one day. And of course, I blew it off. It's some kind of scheme or pyramid, scam that, you can't make money on a computer. Are you crazy? So I totally blew it off, never looked into it. And then it was about 4 years later, the summer of 2013, I saw it on the news, and I thought, well, that's strange. That's that Bitcoin thing Jim was telling me about 4 years ago. If that was a scam, that would have been busted by now. That was some kind of pyramid scheme, right? So I thought, I got to give this thing a look-see. And I started studying it pretty hard then. For about 6 months, let's see, January of 2014, I started mining Bitcoin after studying it for 6 months. And I continued to study it, but I continued to explore different ways of mining it. I had all sorts of different miners, from USB miners to block eruptor cubes, and I had a S1, S3, the grid seeds that mined the Litecoin and Bitcoin at the same time. I had a lot of different miners. I explored, played around with those for about almost a year and a half, and then I had enough of that, and I just started buying Bitcoin when it was on its way down to its low in the summer of 2015. I started buying like it was just under 300, and I kept buying as it went down to about 200, and of course since summer of 2015, it's been massively going up.
Yeah, great time to get in on those dips, And one thing that Rocky mentioned there is a strategy we quite often use, which is if it goes lower, we tend to just buy more because long term it does have it not only resistance, but it's hitting new highs all the time. So it does seem to be a very impressive investment. We talked about that before coming on air against gold and oil, and what commodity shows you these sorts of returns. So I saw a clever post put up recently that said US dollar hits all-time lows against Bitcoin.
Well, it was a major ordeal when Bitcoin reached parity with the dollar. I wasn't around, then. I wasn't in the space back then, but I read about it, how people were like really freaking out on it. And then, of course, earlier this year, it an ounce of gold, and of course now it's just kicking gold's ass.
Yeah, well, that's actually when I first got into it myself, was around the time that it was hitting parity with gold, and it took a bit of a I guess the market was figuring out, is this digital commodity really worth as much as the physical commodity? And there was this resistance and sort of decision making of the market between the price of gold and the price of Bitcoin actually hitting parity. And then once it got past it, whew, see you later. And I actually that's when I started looking at it and did some figures based on $2,000 a coin. And I actually, I don't know whether the theory makes any sense, but it worked very well for me. I went back and looked at the gold run up to $2,000 an ounce back in before the GFC, or during the start of the GFC, I think it was. And what happened is when it hit $2,000, it very sharply dipped. And I thought, what caused that? What did cause that? And I thought, well, for me, I always do the maths on investments. So for me, I looked at the price of actually digging up gold out of the ground and producing it. And it was about $1,100 an ounce. So at $2,000 an ounce, the gold miners were being able to sell it at quite a lot more. But what led me to buy Bitcoin is I figured at $2,000, it was reaching headlines and really heavy headlines. So that's what caused people to do the maths. And I thought the same thing with Bitcoin. When it hits, gets above gold, when it hits these figures, people are going to start crunching numbers. And they're going to find the same thing I did, which was the key factor in bringing me into the crypto economy, into Bitcoin, was 21 million coins. Fixed cap.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so a lot of people like that, the idea of that for their currency. Yeah, it's got to be scarce. But also right. on the digital thing, if you don't like your, if money's not money because it's digital, then what about emails, right? Then stop sending emails. Go back to writing it out on a piece of paper, a letter, right, and putting a stamp on it on the envelope and mailing it, right? Because a digital email is not really mail. So go back to just sending mail. And when you take a picture, right, with your digital camera or your phone, it's just digital. It only exists, in the digital world. I mean, unless you print it out, but most people don't do that anymore. They just post it on Facebook where it's still digital. So is a digital picture really a picture? Are those not pictures? And if you don't like digital money, well, you better not use the US dollar, because most of that is digital.
I believe 97%, 97%, if I'm correct, is of fiat.
I've read so many different numbers. I can't really quote anyone and have any faith in the number, but I believe a significant amount of USD is digital. Whereas if everyone went to the bank and said, I want to close my checking and savings account, give me cash, and everybody in America did that, there's not enough cash in the world to flip that bill. Yeah,
that's a good point. Well, thanks for giving us a bit of a background. And for those of you interested, Rocky actually does run Bitcoin user group meetups as well. That's in California, if I'm right. Is that right, Rocky?
Yes, it's in Southern California. Let me share a screen here. Just hold on a second here. Okay, so I have a website for the meetup. It's btcmeetup.webstarts.com. And if you come here and click about, you can see some pictures from previous meetups. And here I keep a log of the price of Bitcoin at every meetup. I've had 14 meetups so far. The 15th one is going to be the first or second week of November. And the first one was September 27th, so that's less than 1 year and 1 month ago. And Bitcoin was $603.
Wow. Yeah, I was looking at your website the other day, and I was looking at those figures. I go, no, that can't be. It is right. My goodness, it's amazing that it's when I was looking at the figures, I thought, he's been running this for years, but of course, it's been the first stage of really getting a wider adoption. I certainly wouldn't call it mass adoption yet, which is good because it leaves us more room to go. But the first year of wider adoption, where even surfer guys are starting to hear about it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's amazing growth there. So there's
still plenty of room. I mean, we're nowhere near mass adoption yet. I mean, it's still a tiny fraction of the population knows what Bitcoin is. A smaller number owns Bitcoin, and an even smaller, much smaller number understands Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know actual figures, but all I can go by is the number of my mates who more are knowing about it, mainly through me, but the number who've actually pulled the trigger and invested on it. Like, I was just telling the story last week, or how one of my friends said, I really want to get in, even just $100. I said, good. Well, I'll tell you what, I will keep an eye on it. If I set it really good buy points, I'll text you. And I text him when it dipped down to those 4,100 marks. I text him, I've got the message on my phone, can probably bring it up. It says 4166. I'll show it to you. It says 4166. That's good buy and go for it. I think it dipped to 4150 and then went see you later, not to come back again. So I think as more people sort of miss their opportunity on a big dip like that, they'll be more eager the next time the dip comes, and so the more people are lining up to buy it when it does dip again. That's sort of the theory I'm working on. I really don't think until I sort of put some figures out, and I don't like to really put figures out, but I was thinking like surely $24,000-$25,000 a coin in the next. I like to look a little long term, and so far all my predictions are hit, but they're a lot earlier than I expected. And I was saying sort of 5 years might be that sort of price, which if you can get 400% in 5 years, you jump all over it. So I don't know where the price is going, but I think most people will agree that $6,000 is not all-time highs. So even if you bought on those highs and you've seen a little bit of a retracement this morning, Australia time, this evening over in the US, then the best advice that I'm sure even Rocky would give you is just hold. And if you've kept it in your budget, maybe even buy a little more when it starts to bottom out. So yeah, Rocky, how do you do that? Do you have a monthly budget that you put in, or do you just try and stock in when it's low? What's your Bitcoin investment strategy, mate?
Well, when I first started buying, it was just any funds at all I could come up with that I can throw at it. I threw at it, and I have my own business for the past 25 years, and I have these things that were kind of outdated with that had to do with that business. And I was cleaning out my my work area one day and came across a bunch of these things, and I was getting ready to throw them out, and I decided to look it up on eBay to see if these things are worth anything. And I had dozens and dozens of them, and it turned out that they were selling on eBay for anywhere from $50 to $350. And so I started selling them on eBay, and so everything I could sell, I was throwing at Bitcoin.
It's a great strategy. I mean, any way you can accumulate, right? Whether it be to sell something for Bitcoin, whether you do have some investment capital that you can pop in there. I think that an accumulation strategy has proven to be profitable, to say the least, over the last 4 years, and definitely over the last 12 months. So yeah, good advice there from Rocky. Rocky, getting back to the actual fork, I just wanted to ask you, with B2X coming up, I'm having a little trouble understanding its value. So can you explain to me what the difference between Bitcoin and B2X actually is?
Well, Bitcoin right now has SegWit, and the SegWit B2X is the SegWit update with a 2X hard fork. And so it will what SegWit does, SegWit is actually a block size increase. And people still don't understand this. When SegWit first came out, it was not very well known at all that it was a block size increase. But even still today, it's kind of hard for me to understand it. But people still don't understand that SegWit is a block size increase. Once all the wallets have support for SegWit addresses, you're going to see the block size reach about 2 megs. And so later on, I believe it's November or December this year, Core is going to release another update called Schnorr Signatures. That's going to compress the signature data, and it's going to make the block size go up to almost 4 megs. It's going to be about 3 to 3.8 megs. Is going to be your average full block when you have a backlog in the mempool. So basically, it's a 4 meg update. Now, but it's a soft fork, right? So it didn't change the protocol in such a way that made it incompatible with previous nodes, right? So there's still older nodes running that haven't updated, that still see the blocks as 1 meg or less, because before SegWit came, a block had to be 1 meg or less. Could it go over 1 meg? The node would kick it out and say this is invalid. So now the miners can mine up to 4 megs. Now, if you take that base block size, that 1 meg base, and multiply that by 2, make it a 2 meg base. Now, with SegWit, still active, now you can have a block that's up to 8 megs, because it's the 2 megs with everything SegWit does is going to make it 8 megs. So you're basically multiplying the 4 megs times 2. It's what you end up with. But it's just not needed at this time.
Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, why is B2X just, like, I don't like to say these sorts of words because I don't think it's good for our whole economy, but is it just a cash grab? Is that how you're seeing it, Rocky?
It could be that. It could be a power grab. I don't know. I don't know what's in the mind of the miners. It seems to be the miners pushing this. I know they were, when SegWit first came out, it launched in November of last year. And everybody who knew anything about the Bitcoin code thought it was just amazing code. They thought this thing was just going to fly in and get the support of the miners right away. They're going to signal for their readiness because they don't vote. Miners do not vote which way to go in Bitcoin. They signal their readiness for the most recent update. So they refused to signal readiness for SegWit. So they were postponing the update. And at the time, the reason I believe they were doing that was because of the ASIC boost. Because with the ASIC boost technology, Bitmain and their friends could be mining Bitcoin with a 20 to 30% reduction on their electric bill. They don't really mine faster, but they mine more efficiently with the ASIC boost. Well, SegWit breaks that ASIC boost. It doesn't allow it to work anymore because of the way SegWit reorganizes the block. It can't be mined with the ASIC boost anymore. So I think that's why they didn't like it and why they kept postponing it. So now they finally come around to accepting SegWit, but they lost this advantage. They lost this ASIC boost advantage. So they're trying to find another advantage to have over everybody else. And of course, another advantage is having the blocks too big, which would increase the orphan rate, which increases miner centralization. So having a higher orphan rate would be good for miners where, mining is centralized. In other words, where, in Asia, most of the mining is in Asia. So a higher orphan rate wouldn't hurt them, but other miners around the world, it would hurt them. So that would just centralize mining even more. But, for them, that's good. But for Bitcoin, that's bad.
That's excellent. I actually did not know that. So I've just learned something absolutely new. Thank you very much for that, Rocky. Always good to get some new info on the show. Mate, I wanted to move on to replay protection. There's a lot of talk about B2X not having replay protection. And I was just wondering if you could give our viewers a quick explanation of what replay protection is.
Well, it's just a way of signing the signature on the new chain, the new fork, in such a way that it's not compatible with the previous fork, with the original or legacy fork.
Okay, so there was obviously Bitcoin Cash had replay protection, which basically, I guess the most prominent example of replay attacks would be known from the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic fork. So to get ahead of that Bitcoin Cash, regardless of whether there was any value to the coin being added or not, I still feel like they were at least responsible in putting in replay protection.
Well, what you have to remember about Bitcoin Cash or B-Trash is that they refused to put replay protection in up to the very last minute. I think it was a day or two before it went live was when they finally put the replay protection in. They waited.
I didn't know that. So was that under pressure from the actual Bitcoin core or the Bitcoin core miners, or why did they make that decision? Do you know, Rocky?
From the Bitcoin community, pressure from the community to add that protection. Because again, Bitcoin Cash or B-Trash, they were trying to become Bitcoin. They wanted to, make Bitcoin what their fork was. They wanted that to be the original Bitcoin.
Yeah, I wrote some Steemit articles on it back in the day, and I called it the Civil War, as a lot of people were referring it to. And literally a few days out of the gate, I was saying, well, Bitcoin Cash has lost the Civil War. That was my opinion. I still think there was a lot of inorganic growth in the early stages of Bitcoin Cash, and I don't know, just the trade patterns are a little concerning on that one for me. So I've never looked to acquire anymore. I would just wish I had sold it when I had a chance. I even told people on this actual show to, $600, it spiked back up. Maybe it's a good time to get rid of it because I think we've seen it lose the war. But yeah, Bitcoin Cash was sort of definitely had that attitude of we're going after it. We're going after the number one spot. Bitcoin Gold have recently tried to get around that by dubbing themselves the friendly fork. But the more I read into that, the more it concerns me. I mean, it's almost pretty much confirmed there's been a pre-mine on it, which I don't even know how you do on a forking. That was a question asked in our Discord group yesterday. There's all sorts of alarm bells starting to come up for Bitcoin Gold for me. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, how
they're doing that. I can answer how they're doing that. But back to the replay protection. Bitcoin or B Gold doesn't have it as of now, but you know, any minute now they're not forking any minute now. They're going to take a snapshot of the blockchain. Their fork won't start for another 2 to 3 weeks. We don't know when it's going to start. Well, maybe 1, but probably 2 or 3 weeks. They keep postponing things, so we don't know when it's going to start. But so it's the same thing with them and B Trash. You know, they're going to add. They want to add replay protection B Gold. Now, SegWit2x does not want to, but I think once again, just like B Trash, with pressure from the community, they will have to end up doing it. But as far as the pre-mine, it's really not a pre-mine. It is a mid-chain mine, maybe. So at this block number, which we should be very close to right now if we haven't hit it already, is 491407. That's where they're taking a snapshot. And then they're fast forwarding the blocks, 8,000 blocks. And they're taking all the block rewards from those blocks, the 12.5 coins for every block mined. So that's 12.5 times 8,000. That's about 100,000 coins they're putting in a treasury to pay out their developers or do advertising or whatever they want to do with this treasury. And then when they start mining, they're going to mine at block, they're going to start mining at block 491407 plus 8,000. Yep.
No, that's good. But it's good to hear that I had heard that they're not going to have replay protection. So it's good to hear that you think that they will put that in. Just for like B2X though, that there is, concerns that they're not even thinking about replay protection. Now, obviously, as investors in the crypto economy, whether you're in altcoins or Bitcoin, I believe it strongly. You've got to say, well, it's very much a Bitcoin-led market. If Bitcoin goes, the rest of the market tends to go with it. So even as people who are interested in altcoins, it really is, in my opinion, important to get behind putting pressure on B2X to actually incorporate replay protection if they're planning to fork.
Yes, I hope they do. I hope the same thing happens with 2X, SegWit2X, B2X, the same as happened with B-Trash. And I just taking a look right now. We are at block 491407. So the snapshot is happening right now.
Oh well, we often do this on this show, Rocky. We often live for history happening, man. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, look, I'm not a huge fan of the look, I didn't mind Bitcoin Gold when I first started looking into it, but just more and more alarm bells recently. But it's still good to be part of history. So what can we do as investors in the crypto economy? I didn't actually prepare this question for you. I'm just asking for your advice. What can we do as investors in the crypto economy and as investors in Bitcoin to actually put our voice behind the no 2X movement, or at least get some replay protection when you fork?
Yeah, well, just like what you're doing by putting out videos, by tweeting, that we don't want this. It's not in the true spirit of Bitcoin. If they want to make suggestions to Core on a way to go, that's one thing. But to say, oh no, we're taking it from Core, the Core developers, we're going to take it from you and start it and go our own way, and this is the real Bitcoin. I mean, that's a bit presumptuous.
Oh, I think so. I just think I think it's lazy too, man. That's my opinion on it. It's like we recently, I don't know if it was coincidence or not, but we just started calling the show the Crypto Wave. Stupid. We started calling the show the Crypto Wave. And then we went to register the domain, and it got registered very coincidentally the same day that we announced that we were calling the show that. So someone pretty much just stole it out from under us. So yeah, there's people like that out there, that's for sure.
And then of course after SegWit2X it does, go live, and hopefully they will have a replay protection at that point. To further my support for Bitcoin Core, I will, sell all of my SegWit2X coins for Bitcoin coins right away. I did the same thing with Beef Trash.
It's going to be the plan of quite a few people, Rocky. But essentially, just to further explain replay protection or a replay attack to people, and this is a question I need clarified for myself as well. I understand that if you were sending Bitcoin Gold, and not Bitcoin Gold because they're going to have replay protection. Let's say B2X came in, no replay protection. The danger in sending B2X to someone else is that they could essentially use that transaction to take your Bitcoin. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you would want to send your Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network first, and then they could try to steal your Bitcoin, your SegWit2X coin. But that's better than sending SegWit2X and getting your Bitcoin stolen.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I just wanted to know, Rocky, and I don't know if you'll know the answer to this because, again, it wasn't a question I pre-prepared you for, but how about on the exchanges, mate? If we're just going to say, okay, well, we're just going to sell out our 2X and our BTG on the exchanges, and we're just going to trade it straight on something like B2X for Bitcoin. Do you know if that has any potential implications of replay attacks, or is that something that's separate from the possibility of getting a replay attack?
No, it's the same. It doesn't matter whether you're going from wallet to wallet or from exchange to exchange. Well, I don't know. It depends on how the exchange is handling it. But some exchanges are coming out already saying they're not supporting SegWit2X at all. Some are saying that they are. But having your coins on an exchange is risky enough as it is. I mean, I always tell everyone to get your coins off the exchange. If you're not immediately trading, get your coins off the exchange because exchanges are just big honeypots for the hackers.
Yeah, look, I've got to agree. We've seen it once in the economy with the infamous Mt. Gox, and I just think that it's smart advice that Rocky is giving you there. I mean, there are wallets available, whether you are into Bitcoin or altcoin, and that's the safest place to store your coins. So great advice from Rocky. Thanks for that, mate. And so I'll just go through the questions to make sure I haven't missed anything that we wanted to ask you about these forks. Is there any way to? Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, honestly, as someone who likes to try and sort of be creative and contribute to society, I find like trading off the name and the popularity and the success of Bitcoin by using the exact same prefix, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin 2X or whatever. I find it a bit on the nose, mate. And I've just got to ask, is there any possible way that it can actually be stopped, where we actually are able to stop these forks essentially trying to label themselves as the new Bitcoin or just trading off the popularity? Is there any way of stopping that, or not really? It's just adding more general awareness about the reality of the Bitcoin forks that have happened.
I'm sorry, you started breaking up there a little bit, but I think I got the gist of that question. Yeah, there's no way to stop it. There's no way that I know of. Bitcoin is an open and free network. It's open source. Anyone has the right to download the code, audit it, check it out, modify it, and do whatever they want with it. So that, I mean, that's just the nature of open source software.
Yeah, okay. Something we have to deal with. I think just increasing that awareness about the real Bitcoin and perhaps what the others do and don't do is probably the best way, just to make sure people are aware. Mate, I had a couple of questions from one of our regulars in the Crypto Wave investment crew, GB Capital, and he had actually 3 questions for you that he wanted answered. So I'll just ask them to you. he says the potential outlook of the result of 2x or no 2x. How will it affect the everyday community? I guess he's talking about the Bitcoin community there.
Well, I think if it gets stalled somehow and stopped, I believe that would be the absolute best thing for the Bitcoin community, because I think this adds just, you know, a whole nother layer of confusion to everything, just like Bitcoin Cash did. Yeah. So, I mean, if it doesn't get stalled and just canceled, then it does get activated. I mean, you know, hopefully it's going to, you know, go by the way of the dodo like Bitcoin Cash is. You know, in a few months, it's going to go down to near zero and just become history.
Yeah.
It'll just go down in the history books of crypto coins.
Is there any chance that they just won't do it, or is that just, that's not going to happen? Is it they're going to do it?
There's a chance. I don't give it high odds that they're not going to do it. I believe it's better than 50-50 at this point. I mean, but November 15th is a long ways away, and we don't know what's going to happen on the 15th. I think it's a block number, so it's just estimated to be the 15th right now. So it's going to be somewhere around the 15th, and hopefully they'll give up on it with enough, you know, negative input from the community, or they're going to just, you know, go through with it anyway, no matter how much negative input there is, and, you know, the Bitcoin community, you know, not using it and selling it right away and trading it for the real Bitcoin. If enough of that goes on, it will just drive the coin down to, you know, nothing, being worth very little, and then the miners won't mine it. Come back to Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah, cool. The third question that he had, I think you've already answered. Basically, he said, "What's your strategies going forward?" You know, not mistaken, I'd say your strategies is to sell those free alts that you're going to get and put it straight back into Bitcoin. Am I right in saying that that's going to be your strategy?
Well, first, you know, it's wait and see. You know, it's still, what, 3-4 weeks away? Well, closer to 3. And, you know, it might get canceled, hopefully. There's a chance. If it doesn't, and it does go through, and there is replay protection, I will dump them as soon as I can. And if there's not replay protection, then, you know, I'm not sending any coins anywhere until this all gets straightened out.
I think that's actually brilliant advice. So I just want to really focus on that last thing you've just said there, Rocky, and that's if there is no replay protection, the safest thing to do is not even touch that Bitcoin 2x. Is it B2X? Would you agree with that?
Don't touch anything. Don't touch 2x or regular Bitcoin.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for clarifying that. So that's a really, really important step in securing. See, Rocky, when I first started hearing about the potential implications of a forking with no replay protection, what I actually had envisaged in my head, because I'm a tech idiot, is, oh no, it actually puts the core network under threat, as in it can somehow be manipulated to have more than 21 million coins, or coins can be created. I didn't realize that it really would only affect, I don't want to say it like in a bad way, but it would only affect the naive. If you're aware of this, if you've done your research, if you've been lucky enough to get Rocky Palumbo on your show and explain it to you, you know that you're safe. Your Bitcoin's safe. They're not going to be able to create more Bitcoin and suddenly jam the network with it. The threat is that they can use the transaction to actually steal your Bitcoin. So you need to wait until replay protection is guaranteed on that before sending either Bitcoin, B2X, or Bitcoin Gold.
Yes, you want to make sure there's replay protection on both of those forks. And even there's another one coming up on the 30th of this month, Bitcore coin.
There you go. I have so much trouble keeping a track of all these things, but I didn't even know about that one. So thanks, Rocky. That's another one for us to keep an eye on.
But that's not a fork. That's just an airdrop.
Oh, okay, cool. One of the guys in our investment crew yesterday actually said, "Oh, I feel like it's the night of the Super Bowl," because they get excited to see what's going to happen with the kind of the unknowns in the economy. And I guess one good thing about the forks is I don't particularly like them. I think they're not bringing a whole lot more to the economy. But I guess one good thing is it does bring a lot of discussion to the table about Bitcoin and brings a bit more publicity to it. So in a roundabout way, I guess it's not a terrible thing as long as they're responsible and have, for me, replay protection is about responsibility. And any coin that wants to fork off Bitcoin and do that without replay protection is showing how irresponsible they are, and it's certainly not something I'll be investing in.
Very irresponsible. And I agree with you. I think these forks they're not really adding any value to cryptos in general. Sure, you might be able to by me getting this SegWit2X coin and immediately trading it for regular Bitcoin coins, I'm increasing my Bitcoin. But so that in the long run, when Bitcoin continues to go up, that's going to increase my Bitcoin holdings and increase my Bitcoin value. But I mean, look at all the confusion it's causing, and there are lots of people who are going to throw money at SegWit2X thinking that is the way to go because they've been fooled into thinking that's a better way when it's not a better way. And my profit is going to come at a price of their losses.
Yeah, no, that's a good attitude to take, man. I just always try and think about it. You know what? Oh, I got to do it because I know I've got to. Like, I'm the same as you. I just want to sell it and cash it back in. So I know I've got to do it, and that might be taking money off people long term. But I hope I do a little bit better with the extra wealth than what the bankers and the people who have the money at the moment are doing with it. So that's how I sort of sleep with it, saying, oh, I'll do good with the money. Rocky, I just before we jump off, I just wanted to see. I'm just going to duck back over to the chat on YouTube. And guys, if you do have any questions for Rocky, we are going to wrap it up soon because we've stolen too much of his time already. But if you do have any questions for Rocky, now's a good time to pop them in the chat. I'm just going to pop over there now. And as soon as I can figure out how to use my computer, here we go. I'm going to pop over to the YouTube chat. If you've got any questions for Rocky, please pop them through and I'll read them out. Just have a look. Oh, there's been plenty of chat that I've missed.
I've got time. The only restraint is how long you want this video to run.
We'll cut it down anyway. Mate, I think we will actually wrap it up there. That wasn't flooding with questions, which, oh, hang on. Yeah, I got a BTC on a Trezor. Oh, okay. So Crypto Chronicus says, I've got BTC on Trezor. Safest way to move it to exchange, but keep BTG. Do you know anything about, are you able to comment on that, Rocky?
He wants to move it to an exchange, but keep his BTG, you said?
Yeah, that's the question he's asking. The safest way. So he's got his BTC in a Trezor wallet at the moment. On Trezor, sorry, and safest way to move it to exchange, but still keep the BTG, or if that's even possible at this stage.
Well, everyone has been talking about the BTG as having, as long as you have the keys, you're going to get your BTG, but they're not talking about the actual process of getting it. And there's typically two different ways of doing that: signing a message to the address that you hold, or just putting your wallet words in another wallet that is on the BTG chain, and just like creating another wallet there with the same keys and addresses. And so that will just show up on that chain having your coins there. But we're really not sure which way this is going to be. But the snapshot was already taken because we're at block 491411 right now. So the snapshot has been taken. It's a done deal. Theoretically, he can move his coins wherever he wants as long as he keeps that wallet with those exactly wallet words.
One of our regulars and one of our very knowledgeable contributors, Johnny Crypto, has said the same thing. He's echoing that statement. He said, the snapshot is taken, you can send. The important thing is to have BTC in that block. So thank you both to Rocky and to Johnny Crypto, Zhao, for clarifying that. Crypto Chronicus said, thank you, he just wanted to be sure. So that's great.
So now the only issue is,
we might wrap it up there. Rocky, did you have anything that you wanted to say in closing for the, I guess, for the whole fork discussion that we've had today?
Well, just on that last question, if BTG comes out without replay protection, then when that system does go live in 1, 2, or 3 weeks, whenever it goes live, somebody could replay that, transaction and steal his BTG.
Wow.
If he moves it now to an exchange, because they'll have the signature for that address to move it. But I'm pretty sure. I remember him in an interview, one of the main guys at BGold, saying that they want replay protection. They just haven't, added it to the code yet. It's something they're working on.
Yeah, sure.
So it should come live with it. So your viewer shouldn't have to worry.
Sure. I think that I think it's a good point that you make. He wouldn't actually risk losing his Bitcoin anyway. It would only be the Bitcoin Gold at the very worst if they didn't come good on their word and didn't have replay protection in when the Bitcoin Gold actually goes live.
Exactly.
All right, cool. I think we're up to date, mate. Well, as best as we can be for newbie surfers in the crypto economy. I wanted to thank you again, Rocky, for joining us. For those of you who have enjoyed Rocky's discussion, he does do a meetup in Southern California. Rocky, can you just give us the name of that website again, please, mate?
Yeah, sure. It's btcmeetup.webstarts.com. I believe it's on my lower third right now.
It's right there, mate. That's great. Yep. So btcmeetup.webstarts.com. Was that right?
Yes.
Great.
And of course, I had the screen share on, so you weren't seeing the lower third for most of that. But maybe we can add some notes to the show notes and put some information in there.
Absolutely. I'll speak to the guys because I'm not really sure how to do that, but I'll speak to the guys in the crew and they'll help me add those notes in. We'll make sure we have links to your meetups and things like that in there. Rocky, thank you so much again for joining the newbies and tolerating our silly questions to help us understand the implications of the forks and why we really need to push as a community for B2X specifically to get replay protection. I really appreciate your time today, Rocky. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. It was fun.
Great, mate. Thanks a lot. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. We usually get on to looking at some altcoins, but I think this has been a thorough discussion today. So no moments for today. Rocky, thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you all tomorrow for another cryptocurrency discussion. Peace out. See you later.